All right. Hey, how are you guys? It is Thursday, and this is what we read today for our 1 o'clock read aloud. So I wanted to get this on YouTube. So it's Magic Treehouse, Dolphins at Daybreak. Not too many pictures. It's kind of more of a listening book, but I think you'll like it. All right, Dolphins at Daybreak. It's Magic Treehouse number 9. So it's the 9th one by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1 is Master Librarians. So chapter 1, Master Librarians. Okay, there you go. Picture right in the beginning. So that's Jack dreaming about the treehouse. Jack stared out the kitchen window. The sun was not up yet, but the sky was growing later. Jack had been awake for a long time. He'd been thinking about the dream. He'd had the dream about Morgan Le Fay. The treehouse is back, Morgan had said. I'm waiting. Jack wished that dreams were real, and he really missed Morgan's magic treehouse. Let me show you the treehouse again. Jack! His little sister Annie appeared in the doorway. We have to go to the woods now, she said. Why? Jack asked. I had a dream about Morgan, exclaimed Annie. She said the treehouse is back and she's waiting for us. Why? Jack asked. Because, she said, I had a dream about Morgan. Sorry, I just changed the camera. And she said the treehouse is back and she's waiting for us. Oh, wow, said Annie. She told you? So it must be important. But Annie, dreams aren't real, said Jack. Some dreams aren't real, but this one is, said Annie. I can just feel it. She opened the back door. I'll see you later. Wait, I'm coming, said Jack. He raced up the stairs. Having the same dream must mean something, he thought. He grabbed his backpack and threw his notebook and pencil into it. Then he ran downstairs. We'll be back soon, Mom, Jack called into the living room. Where are you going so early? His dad called. Just for a quick walk. It rained last night, said Mom. Don't get your shoes wet. We won't. Jack slipped out the door. Annie was waiting for him. Let's go, she said. The sky was pale gray. The air felt freshly washed. Jack and Annie ran up their quiet street to the Frog Creek woods. They headed between the trees. Soon they came to the tallest oak in the woods. There was a wooden house high in the treetops. It is back, whispered Jack. Someone looked out of the window of the treehouse. A lovely old woman with long white hair. Morgan Le Fay. Come up, called the magical librarian. Jack and Annie climbed up the rope ladder and into the treehouse. In the dawnlight, they stared at Morgan Le Fay. She looked beautiful in a red velvet robe. Jack pushed his glasses back into place. He couldn't stop smiling. We both had dreams about you, said Annie. I know, said Morgan. You do? Yes, I sent them to you, said Morgan, because I need your help. What kind of help, said Jack. Merlin the magician has been up to his old tricks again, said Morgan, so I haven't had any time to collect books for Camelot's library. Can we collect them for you? Asked Annie. Yes, but in order to gather books through time, you must be master librarians, said Morgan. Oh, well, said Annie sadly. Oh, but you can become master librarian, said Morgan. If you pass the test. Really, said Annie? What kind of test? Asked Jack. Well, you must show that you know how to do research, said Morgan, and show that you can find answers to hard questions. How? Said Annie. By solving 4 riddles, said Morgan. She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a rolled-up paper. The first riddle is written on this ancient scroll, she said. This book will help you find the answer. She held out a book. On the cover where there were the words, Ocean Guide. Ocean Guide. So that's Morgan in the robe. And she's handing them the book. This is where you have to go, said Morgan. The ocean? Oh boy, said Annie. She pointed at the cover. I wish we could stop. Jack grabbed Annie's hand. How will we know if we found the right answer to the riddle? He asked Morgan. You will know, Morgan said mysteriously. I promise you will know. Jack let go of Annie's hand. She pointed again at the cover and finished her wish. "I wish we could go here," she said. The wind started to blow. "Are you coming with us, Morgan?" Before Morgan could answer, the treehouse started to spin. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. The treehouse spun faster and faster and faster. And then everything was still. Absolutely still. Morgan Le Fay was gone. Only the ancient scroll and the ocean book were left in her place. Chapter 2, The Reef. The Reef. Chapter 2, The Reef. All right. Just going to turn this so you can see a little bit outside, maybe. Whoa, sorry. I need to see the trees. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. The reef. A breeze blew through the window. Seagulls cried. Waves lapped the shore. Annie picked up the riddle scroll. She unrolled it. Together, she and Jack read the riddle. Rough and gray as a rock, plain as plain can be, but hidden deep inside, there's great beauty in me. What am I? Do you see Jack and Annie in there? The treehouse landed on a beach. "Let's go find the answer," said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window. The treehouse wasn't in a tree. It was on the ground. Why is this ground pink?" said Jack. "I don't know," said Annie, "but I'm going out there." "I'm going to do a little research first," Jack said. Annie climbed out of the treehouse. Jack picked up the ocean book and flipped through the pages. He found a picture of a pink island surrounded by water. He read, "This is a coral reef. Corals are tiny sea animals. After they die, their skeletons remain. Over time, the reef builds up from stacks and stacks of coral skeletons." "Oh, man, tiny skeletons," said Jack. He pulled out his notebook and he wrote, "Millions of coral skeletons." Jack, come look at this," cried Annie. "What is it?" "I don't know, but you'll love it," she said. Jack threw his notebook and the ocean book into his pack. He climbed out the window. "Is it the answer to the riddle?" he called. "I don't think so," said Annie. "It doesn't look very plain." She was standing at the edge of the water. Beside her was a strange-looking machine. Jack hurried over the bumpy coral to get a better look at the machine. The machine was half on the reef and half in the clear blue water. It looked like a huge white bubble with a big window. "Is it a special kind of boat?" asked Annie. Jack found a picture of the machine in the ocean book. He read, "Scientists who study the ocean are called oceanographers. Sometimes they travel in small diving vessels called submersibles or mini-subs to study the ocean floor." It's a mini-sub," said Jack. He pulled out his notebook to write it down. "Let's get inside," said Annie. No, said Jack. Actually, he did want to see what the sub looked like inside, but he shook his head. "We can't, Annie. It's not ours." "Just a teeny peek," said Annie. "It might help us figure out the riddle." Jack sighed. "Okay, but we have to be careful. Don't touch anything," he said. "Oh, don't worry," said Annie. "And take off your shoes so they won't get wet." He and Annie slipped off their shoes and socks and threw them towards the treehouse. Then they stepped carefully over the sharp coral. Annie turned the handle of the hatch on the mini-sub, and it opened. She and Jack climbed inside. The latch slammed shut. The mini-sub was tiny. 2 seats faced a big window. In front of the seats was a computer built into a control panel. Annie sat down. There's a picture of it. It looks like that's when they're climbing in. Jack opened the ocean book and read more on the mini-sub page. Mini-subs have strong hulls to keep air in and protect those aboard from water pressure. Computers are used to guide the mini-sub through the ocean. "Oops," said Annie. "What's wrong?" Jack looked up. Annie was waving her hands in front of a computer. Now the screen showed a map. "What's going on?" said Jack. Well, I just pressed a few keys," said Annie. "What?" "I said do not touch anything," said Jack. The air blower came on. The mini-sub jerked backward. "Oh, no." "Get out," Jack said. "Get out." He and Annie scrambled for the hatch. Jack grabbed the handle, but they were too late. The mini-sub slipped off the reef. Then it dove silently down into the deep. Uh-oh. Down into the deep they go. Chapter 3, Mini-Sub. nearly done it now, Annie, said Jack. Sorry, but look out the window, Annie said. Look. Forget it. We have to figure this out. Jack stared at the computer. He saw a row of pictures at the top of the screen. What did you do? He asked. I just pressed the on button, said Annie. The screen lit up, and I pressed the starfish. That must be the command center to go under the water, said Jack. Yeah, because then the map came on, said Annie. Okay. So the map shows the reef, said Jack. Look, there's the mini sub on the map. It's moving away from the reef. It's like a video game, said Annie. I bet I know what to do. Annie pressed a key with an arrow button pointed right. The mini sub on the screen moved right. The real mini sub turned to the right also. Great, said Jack with relief. You press the arrows to steer the mini sub, so now we can go back. And here's some of those buttons. Starfish. See the starfish? Oh no, not right away, said Annie. It's so beautiful down here. We have to get back to the reef, said Jack. His eyes were still glued to the computer. What if the owners find the mini sub gone? Look out the window, said Annie, just for one teeny second. Jack sighed. He pushed his glasses into place and then he looked up. Wow, oh man, he said. Outside the glass of the mini sub was a strange world of bright moving color. It looked like another planet. The mini sub was moving past red and yellow and blue coral, past little coral mountains, valleys, and caves, past fishes of every color and size. Can't we stay a little while? The answer to Morgan's riddle must be here, said Annie. Jack nodded slowly. She might be right, he thought. Besides, when would they ever get to visit a place like this again? Chapter 4, Fish City. There were fish everywhere, floating over the swaying grass, eating on the white sandy bottom, peeping out of coral caves. Some kinds of coral look like blue fingers or lacy fans. Others look like deer antlers, or lettuce leaves, or mushrooms, or trees. Jack read in the book. Coral reefs are only found in warm tropical waters. Nearly 5,000 species of fish live around coral reefs in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Jack pulled out his pencil and notebook and he started to write a list. Coral reef research. Warm water, over 5,000 kinds of fish. Look, said Annie. The sub floated past a huge starfish, then a pink jellyfish, then a blue seahorse. Jack added to his list starfish, jellyfish, seahorses. What is that? Cried Annie. Jack saw a creature that looked like a giant pancake with a long tail. This was him writing down his notes in his book. A stingray, cried Jack. He put that on his list as well. And then she pointed to and she pointed to the biggest shell Jack had ever seen. It was big as a foot still. I'll have to check on that one, said Jack. He turned the pages of the ocean book. When he got to the pages about clams, he read aloud. The giant clam of the coral reef is 3 feet wide and weighs up to 200 pounds. Wow, said Annie. No kidding, said Jack. He added giant clam to his list. Dolphins, cried Annie. Jack looked up. 2 dolphins were peering into their window. They tapped their noses against the glass. Their eyes were bright. They seemed to be smiling. Jack laughed. It's like we're in a fish tank, and they're looking at us, he said. Their names are Suki and Sam, said Annie, sister and brother. You're nuts, said Jack. Here's a kiss for you, Suki, Annie said. She pressed her lips to the glass as if she were kissing the dolphin's nose. Oh, brother, said Jack. But the dolphin opened her mouth and tossed her head back. She seemed to be laughing. Hey, I know the answer to the riddle. Dolphins, said Annie. They're gray and plain, but they have great beauty inside. You forgot rough as the rock part. Dolphins' skins look really smooth and slippery. Oh, right, said Annie. The dolphins slipped their tails. They swam off into the light blue water. Wait, don't go, called Annie. Suki! But the dolphins were gone. It's time for us to go too, said Jack. He was afraid someone might be looking for the mini sub. But we haven't solved the riddle, said Annie. Jack studied the bright underwater world. I don't see the answer, he said. There's nothing plain out there at all. Then maybe the answer's in the mini sub, said Annie. They looked around the tiny space. "I'll check the computer," said Jack. He studied the rows of pictures at the top of the screen. He pressed the book picture. The word ship log flashed onto screen. So this was them with the Dolphins. And then he pressed this picture, the book picture. All right, and that was the end of chapter 4, and next will be chapter 5. All right, have a great night, and I will see you later.